Okay, so welcome to another edition of Family Business Talk. So, as part of a journey to delve deeper into the complexity of family businesses, we're excited to have with us today an extreme figure in academia, a researcher, a professor, and also mentor of entrepreneurs. So, join us as we explore the intricacies of family business entrepreneurship with our guests. So, welcome, Joao, and thank you for taking the time to share with us your experiences. So, firstly, could you briefly describe your professional journey and your journey from studying economics to co-founding NGOs and monitoring entrepreneurs?
Okay, thank you, Wendy. So it's a pleasure to be here with you, with the conversation with you. My journey. So I studied economics. I studied economics here in Lisbon. I did my undergraduate. I did my master's degree in economics. I thought I was going to be an economist. That was my first guess when I entered university. Then I think throughout the process of studying, especially at the undergraduate level, I started being involved with volunteering projects abroad. So I spent 2 summers in Mozambique. Then I spent another summer in São Tomé e Príncipe, always engaged in these organizations that, in a way, have the mission to bring these people, this energy from Portugal, in order to do something for these countries during the summer. So that was a little bit my first involvement in these. Let's say in this area of social work. After school, I then was a little bit doubtful about what exactly to do. I found a master in London at LSE, precisely about NGO management and development. So I thought, this experience that I had co-founding these small organizations, why not going into a little bit deeper in the field in that field of study. After that master, so I ended up doing my dissertation around social entrepreneurship, and that moment in time, there was the concept was still this concept of social entrepreneurship, social innovation was kind of emerging, and there was some organizations working on that in Portugal. So I ended up coming back to Portugal and then working a little bit in a way, structuring a little bit the field of social entrepreneurship, providing training in social entrepreneurship, research in social entrepreneurship, and getting involved into universities again, promoting this area. Then I ended up studying a little bit more. I did my PhD at LBS, and now I am here at Católica. I mean, since that process of studying NGO management and being involved in social entrepreneurship, I think since then I've been always involved in mentoring, getting to know more ventures, more social ventures, supporting social ventures, and being very much involved in basically trying to understand them better and supporting them, with the tools that they need to perform well.
Okay, well, thank you so much for your answer. So how have these different experiences shaped your approach to entrepreneurship?
Yeah, well, I think I've been involved with entrepreneurship in, I would say, 3 fronts. So first of all, by co-founding and being involved in founding these types of organizations. Not only those 2, but then I got involved in some others and supporting others, close people, friends, to co-found these types of organizations. So that's the first experience. Then through research, you get a different angle. So you sit in your desk, you read about what others are saying about this field, and basically you try to extract meaning from what you observe in reality. And then by teaching. I think nowadays I spend a lot of time teaching entrepreneurship at multiple levels, the master, at MBA, at multiple levels. And so these 3 spheres, in a way, shape a little bit my understanding of entrepreneurship through the processes, through research, and through teaching. And I think these are different angles, but give you, let's say, a relatively complete picture about what entrepreneurship is and how can you support entrepreneurs better and understand better what they do.
Okay, totally. So now let's talk about the founders. So what can you tell us about the founders' typical behaviors or characteristic, and do they share any common traits?
So I think this is this is, I mean, it's a question that captures the attention of a lot of academics trying to understand, founders deeply. So there's some research about, for instance, personality traits. Whether certain characteristics of the personality are more correlated with founders, especially successful founders. There's some more research about particular issues, not personality traits, but things like risk aversion or creativity, whether founders are more or less creative, more or less risk averse. So I think there's a lot of research on this. So it's a large topic. It's very dispersed, so there's a lot of people talking about that. I mean, I think from my perspective and looking at the literature and looking at the experience of supporting and getting in touch with entrepreneurs, I can highlight some characteristics. So I think one is this action orientation. So obviously there's moments when you are an entrepreneur where you have to think carefully about what you are going to do next, or thinking about what type of approach. But they are usually people that have some kind of action orientation. And action orientation is usually towards the problem. Usually they focus on a particular problem and they develop all efforts needed to solve that problem, especially social entrepreneurs. Yeah. So that's, I think, the first characteristic. I think another characteristic is that I think it's the other side, which is the learning side. I mean, obviously they are very action oriented, but they are very much up to date about the knowledge necessary to solve the issue, and to solve the problem, and potential solutions for that problem. So there's I would say a learning angle. So they are usually very, very much informed about the things they need to do. And then I'm not sure. I think there's an ambition to be big. Okay, so I think usually the problems that entrepreneurs solve, they can be small, they can be big. I would say the best entrepreneurs solve big problems. And if you're solving a big problem, a big problem can be a problem that is very difficult to solve, or a problem that it's very neglected, or a problem that affects a lot of people or affects a small number of people very deeply. Usually they are relatively ambitious, so they really want to kind of change the world, and solve that issue in the with their ventures. Okay, I think these are kind of some characteristics at least.
Totally. Okay, and succession is also a very important topic in family firms. So likewise, social organizations also face big challenges when their founders needs to retire. So what makes this section so difficult for founders?
So for founders of NGOs, no? Or I think actually there's some similarities here. Okay, so if you think about family firms, there's part of the identity of the family of the founder that it's in a way transferred to a venture. So for instance, there's some interesting research about naming of ventures, and family firms sometimes name their ventures with their family name. And so when you as a founder name something with your name or with your surname, it means that part of your identity is in that entity with your name. Okay, and so I think in NGOs what you observe is that there's a very strong connection between the identity of the person that is founding the NGO and the NGO itself. You see some NGOs founded by people who have been having the problem before, or from people that are very, very close to a particular problem because they grew in a particular region with a particular with the prominence of a particular problem. So what you see is that these NGO is created by this person, and this person in a way is so connected with the NGO that leaving that in a way it's very difficult for that person and for the venture. Okay, and for this social venture. And so this identity construction, which in a way is very difficult to disentangle from the founder and the NGO, that is a problem for succession, because then it's very difficult for me to leave when my venture is part of me. Okay, so I think that is, I think your question was about challenges, no? I think there's other issues, which is, so for instance, NGOs have, so if more traditional ventures, usually, I'm kind of generalizing here, but if traditional ventures rely on the market to get the revenues they need in order to sustain themselves through time, so they sell something to a customer, and obviously you need to develop relationships with customers. So I'm not saying that that's an unimportant relation. That is an important relationship. But usually NGOs develop multiple types of relationships with multiple different stakeholders that require some investment of personal relationships. I'm giving an example. So usually NGOs rely on funding from sponsors, from large corporations that put some money into their NGOs, or in corporate foundations that actually invest in those NGOs, or other donors, even individual donors. All these things must be very carefully managed, and usually the founder or the top management team of these NGOs have an important role in developing these relationships. So what happens is, when I have to leave as a founder, there's this problem because I have also part of a role in those relationships. So it's very difficult for me to leave and leave the company without sometimes the key point of relationship with them. So I think that's another issue. The identity issue, I think the relationships issue. I think these are I think the key things. I think there might be other issues around governance. So it's very common for NGOs, for social organizations. Usually these organizations have a different legal status. So for instance, they are associations, they are foundations, they are cooperatives. And this requires a style of governance which is very different from traditional firms, which can be, one or two people that divide the ownership of the company, and it's just them. In an association, you need 9 names, you need 12 people to join. In a foundation as well, in a cooperative, you need more. And what happens is that initial network that, in a way, controls the NGO and controls the social organization is usually very linked with the founder. So when the founder leaves, the connections with these points in the governance of that organization became a little bit weaker because they were connected with the organization because of the founder. And so when the founder leaves, you see this, I would say, a negative effect on the performance of the firm, precisely because there's these links that were dependent on the founder. So I think these are, I think 3 issues that actually play a role in this process of succession, which is a huge issue, by the way. I think it's in both organizations.
Definitely. Many philanthropic activities are initiated and supported by family businesses. What motivates philanthropy in these contexts, and how does it differ from NGOs that a family doesn't back?
Okay, so I think the question is an interesting question, which is why family firms actually get involved in these social activities. Okay, so, and I think there's some, I'd say some good arguments for family firms to be, let's say, a little bit more motivated to launch these types of ventures. I think, first of all, I mean, I'm not an expert in family businesses, okay? But at least from what I've read, what I've understood from family businesses before, there's some kind of persistence through time that family firms have, if you compare with other firms. So since you have your name invested in a particular venture, there's a way, if your family keeps growing, if your son is already working there, if your grandson is already working there, so there's some persistence through time, some long-term orientation that is interesting to preserve. And these types of causes, these types of problems also require some kind of long-term solutions. They are very difficult to solve, these problems that usually NGOs or social ventures solve. And so this is actually a way for me as a family business to to reinforce that persistence through time. Okay, it's also a way to, usually I see family businesses also with a very quite a strong or stronger set of values, set of principles for action. Okay. I'm not saying that they are not competitive or they are less competitive than traditional firms, but they usually have these stronger values, stronger principles of action. And what does that mean? If you have strong values, if you have strong principles, well, that's good, because solutions to difficult problems also require people to have or organizations to have these strong values and principles. So that's, I think, another argument for action in developing these things. I think these are, I think these are the arguments that I can think about. There's also sometimes the involvement in social causes. Maybe you are already aware of that. So sometimes the involvement with causes is also linked with strengthening the culture of the firm. And so sometimes organizations get involved in social causes, and they actually involve their employees, involve their investors, involve their teams, involve their clients sometimes in mobilizing efforts towards a cause. Okay, and if you think about the family firm, imagine a family firm with all the family in there, being involved with a social cause. That's actually a very interesting value proposition, not only for the business, because there might be arguments at the business level, meaning that firms will in a way be perceived as better firms because they are involved in this. There's also the argument of getting the family more together and developing stronger bonds within the family members, because we are not always working on this firm and business together. We can actually do something to change the world together, and maybe this family firm, because of this argument, will be a little bit more motivated to get involved with social causes and NGOs. So I think that could be, I think, a less strong argument, but I think still a strong argument for family firms to be a little bit more involved with this.
I completely agree, because they have an emotional attachment very often.
Exactly.
From your experience studying NGOs, does the family effect play any role in the success and longevity of these initiatives?
Yeah, so I think part of the answer I gave in the previous question, which is, I think so in a previous question we were discussing the side of the family firm. So why these family firms were motivated to get involved.
Yes.
Now what about the NGOs? So let's compare, and I'm not aware of research doing that. Could be actually an interesting line of research. Comparing NGOs or social initiatives or more broadly impact-related activities founded or with the support of families or not with the support of families. That could be an interesting study. How are they different and why they differ? Why are they better or not? I have no idea. Okay, there might be arguments for both sides. I think what's the advantage of having, for instance, a family firm supporting an NGO? So I'm now on the NGO or in the impact initiative side. So I mean, first of all, the long term is an important effect. So if I am a social entrepreneur, and there's some evidence about that, if you invest in a social entrepreneur or in an NGO, an impact venture, you need to be a little bit more patient. Why? Because these problems are really difficult to solve, and the entrepreneur may need a little bit more capital and more time in order to be able to solve properly these problems. Okay? If you have a family business there, and if we believe, and I believe that family firms, and there's some evidence about that, yes, there is, about this long-term orientation, well, that's very good, because then one thing that it's important for impact entrepreneurs is to have investors and supporters and people that support them aligned with their timings, aligned with their priorities, etc. So if you are a family business, you are more long-term oriented. I am also, as a social entrepreneur, a little bit more long-term oriented. That's great. So I think we can work together relatively well. So that's, I think, a first good like the family advantage as a supporting agent of the entrepreneur. I think the second one is related to I think the thing that I mentioned before, which is these values and principles. So at least I think the large family firms that we all know have, I cannot say for sure, but I think there is this principle or value advantage. And once again, if you are an NGO, or if you are a social entrepreneur, you need people around you with the same values. I mean, otherwise you will not follow your mission. And then that is actually very common, the mission drift, which is I have a mission, but suddenly have someone supporting me, that it's pushing me in another direction. And maybe because I need some resources, maybe I'll go in another direction. That's not very good because I have a mission. And if I have partners with the same values or with more aligned values with me, that's good. So that I think that can be a good family effect in this process.
Yes, definitely. What roles do educational institutions like the Católica-Lisbon Entrepreneurship Centre play in preparing future business leaders to think about their role holistically, where the impact on society is also a key factor?
I think that's a good question that I often think about because I'm involved with the Católica-Lisbon Entrepreneurship Centre, so that's something that in a way moves me in terms of understanding how can I create value for students, and that's a very strong focus of the center. I think one angle, and I think we have some. In general, the center is in a way, and that is my first point that I wanted to mention is getting entrepreneurs and all the ecosystem of entrepreneurship closer to the students. Okay, this might be done by bringing the entrepreneurship ecosystem inside the school, guest speakers, people that are actually supporting entrepreneurs or that are actually entrepreneurs. Interacting with students. So I think this development of these connections with the ecosystem is something that these types of institutions must do in order to be successful. So that's, I think, one thing. Another thing is, I think how can I say this? If you search online. There's a lot of resource. Nowadays there's a lot of information. It's not only nowadays. This is kind of an expression, but there's a lot of information, and it's very easy to be misguided. Okay, so it's very easy to find information that is not supported online. How should I develop a marketing strategy for my entrepreneurial venture? Or how should I test initially my venture? Or how should I get customers? Or how should I scale up? If you search for this, there's answers by very successful entrepreneurs, people that have opinions about this, and that's perfectly okay. It's sometimes difficult for the students, for the entrepreneurs, to filter what's true and what's not true. Okay. If you think about universities, universities have this strong connection with research, and research is, in very simple terms, is trying to figure out what's right and what's wrong, whether A causes B or not. And there's an advantage of being closer to the truth here. Okay, and I think these centers, because they are connected with faculty that are doing research on these topics, that are understanding how marketing works for startups, how entrepreneurial process really works in practice, how AI can be used in order to foster more entrepreneurship and better entrepreneurship. So there's a lot of topics. Being inside the university and having this responsibility of giving resources and tools and knowledge to students, we are in a way connected with the truth, with something which is a little bit more robust, which was proven before that it is successful if it's followed by the entrepreneurs. So I think that is a role that I think these types of centers should have, is promoting the robust knowledge and giving the robust knowledge that you need in order to be more entrepreneurial. And I think these are the two key things. is about fostering the connection with the with the ecosystem, is giving true knowledge. I think maybe, I mean, obviously in universities, I mean, when you are in universities is maybe a moment in your life that you really create a network.
Yeah.
Network and get to know maybe people that 10 years from then you are going to do business with, or are going to, you know, and I think that is also the role of these types of institutions, these centers that are specialized in a particular topic. And we are also thinking about some initiatives to put together people. And it's not only about current students with current students. You know, it can be current students with previous students. You know, that is a very important link. You know, who was here before? Why not connect them with current students? So I think this connection, so if the connection with the ecosystem is more the external connection, this is more the internal connection. So the school, these centers should put people in touch, because you know. That is, it's very common. You know, sometimes, I mean, I teach these entrepreneurship courses out of curiosity. I teach these entrepreneurship courses, and you know, sometimes people don't even know each other. They are not very interested in setting up a venture, and this was a real case. And suddenly they are together in a particular group. They were not expecting to be that group, and after the course, they got so involved with that venture, and the three of them that didn't know each other before the course were actually 1 year exploring the venture full time.
That's so good.
Together. And so this connection between people, which is very difficult to design, because you know this is a little bit unexpected. You know, how can I design something that I have no idea whether it works or not? Because if this is a success case, there's 10 unsuccessful cases. You know, but this promotion of these connections inside the school, with the topic of entrepreneurship, setting up ventures, trying to change the world. That's an interesting thing that these centers could do.
Yeah, that all sounds really interesting. Thank you. For founders just starting a family business or a social enterprise, what advice would you give them to help them build a strong foundation, supporting business growth and impact in society?
So I think we talked about some of these things. So I think first of all, and that is something you know, quite highlighted by the people that, for instance, investors that support entrepreneurs, or people that support entrepreneurs in other in a direction like incubation or acceleration, is you know, the person that has a plan of a venture or has a plan of a solution must really understand the problem that they are solving. Okay, so that is really, really important. If you don't understand the problem, it can be a very interesting solution, but you are not credible enough. And this credibility is very important to get the resources you need, to be positioned in the ecosystem as a person that knows what they are doing. So getting closer to the problem is something very important. Understanding the problem very well. Okay, so that is, I think, a very, very important thing. You have to understand the problem better than anyone else. And when you are saying that, look, I have developed this platform to solve this problem, you have to know about everything about that problem. About developing a platform, well, it's important to have some competencies to develop the solution, but I think it's less important than knowing a lot about the problem at the early stage. Obviously, at a late stage, maybe you need to know more. So that's the first thing. I think the second thing is to invest a lot of time in validation. Okay, and validation meaning doubt your own theory, doubt your own position about the thing. Meaning that if you think that there's a problem, these people, and it's very common to think that these problem because of X and Y and Z, well, validate them, validate this. Go and talk with these people. Go and talk with experts on that problem. Go and do a survey around, around people that you know. So this effort of validation is something really, really important. And then, if you are in a good validation process, in touch with your potential clients, in touch with experts, if you know a lot about the problem, I think the third thing you need is to be once again, connected with the ecosystem. There's a lot of people, and I think I always tell this to my students, people always underestimate the willingness to help on the other side. People are much more willing to help you, and helping you is putting you in touch with a person that will use your solution, putting you in touch with an expert, dedicating one afternoon with you to design a little bit your venture and try to figure out what you can do. People usually underestimate that, and being connected is very important. So that thing about going to events and going to knock on the door of this incubator, and we have a lot of these incubators, these facilitators in Lisbon. Go to these events which are, sometimes a little bit more specialized in a particular topic. That's very important. That's very important. Sometimes people are a little bit afraid of, but then I'll talk about my idea and people copy my idea or imitate my idea. Well, that can happen. That can happen. But usually it doesn't happen. Usually we are interacting with people that are very, very busy. They have their own ideas.
Yeah.
And what they really want is ideas similar to theirs, to interact sometimes with people with similar ideas and actually create an environment in which all of us can have their own ideas. And, if you help someone, it's likely that that person will help you back.
Yeah.
Reciprocity is a very important social mechanism in general. Okay, so I think these three are important: the problem, the validation, and then the ecosystem linkages. Those are very, very important.
Thank you. And then as we approach the end of our conversation, we'd like to ask you one final question. So throughout our academic journey, we've not just learned about business mechanics, but also about the values, wisdom, and legacies that shape the soul of a family business. Based on your experience and the lessons life has taught you, what advice would you share with the next generation as we prepare to start our professional journey?
Okay, so, I'm not a psychologist, I'm not a coach, I'm not, and I usually doubt those people. But I think some things are generically accepted as good. First, I think you get into a position, you get into a job, you get into an internship, you get into, for instance, one of these volunteering experiences that you might have in the summer or in, anything that you do. I think you should give as much as you can. Okay, I think that's always good. And also get as much as you can. Sometimes you'll have a person that you are working for, a person that you'll perceive that won't teach you anything. Okay, that's good. That's life. Just work. Just give the best of you. Maybe get something from him. Maybe get something from her. So give and get as much as you can in all these experiences. There's always a lot to learn. There's always a lot to put in terms of effort. Increasing always the bar of effort is always good. I think the second is something that I think, I'm not sure in your countries, in your culture. I think there's some difficulty sometimes in leaving in the sense of getting out of the position, of the job that you have when you are unhappy. And I think when you are unhappy, you should definitely reflect, and if that's the case, leave as soon as possible.
Yes.
Okay? There's no gain in sustaining a non-optimal relationship with your job. Personal relations is another issue, a little bit more complex. But if you are not okay, well, try to reflect, try to understand the causal structure of that problem. Maybe there's someone that you don't like. Maybe there's someone that is not treating you well. Well, just leave, and that's perfectly okay. Just close the chapter and go to another one. Well, sometimes it's risky. That's why I think in some cultures which are a little bit more risk averse, it's very difficult to leave a situation which was apparently stable, but that can then compromise a little bit the long term. And so I think this is something that it seems easy to do. It seems an easy piece of advice, but maybe sometimes it's difficult to implement. But I think it's good. It's good to leave a place in which you are not very good.
Yeah, thank you. That's very good advice. As we conclude today's conversation on family business talks, we thank our guest for sharing his knowledge and experiences, and we hope our listeners enjoyed it as much as we have. Until next time.
Bye.